Thank you so much for staying with us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jax-Miller, and a very special welcome to those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com. Now, we've been talking a lot about the effect of the pandemic on kids and children and schooling, but we haven't paid that much attention to children at the primary school level, and that's what we want to focus on in this evening's edition. So we're going to be bringing in a little later in the program to discuss the issue Dr. Rebecca Tortello, education specialist with UNICEF Jamaica. Earl Anderson is going to be with us, principal of Woodlands Primary in Manchester. Ethan McNamee, who is the principal of Broadleaf Primary, as well as Violet Thompson, the president of the Jamaica Association of Infant and Secondary Schools. Before we talk to them, though, a few weeks ago, Giovanni Dennis did a special report where he spoke to children, primary school children, about their feelings about how COVID was affecting them. And I wanted to replay that to set the stage for our discussion this evening.
Life in the pandemic.
COVID destroyed everything.
Yeah, what it destroy? What do you mean?
Like, it destroyed your family, your friends, and like the people you love.
Views from children.
It's very hard for me because I can't go out and go and look for my friends. I have to ask. Sometimes I can go, but I have to wear my mask, and sometimes with my thumb.
Primary school children.
It's good. I just read books because my mother always tells me to read books and read my Bible every day and tell God to just cover us from COVID-19.
When COVID happened, I was sad because I never get to go to school anymore. And then I got to go to face-to-face, and then I didn't learn so much.
Which makes some COVID adjustments unwelcomed.
I don't like when I wear a mask because sometimes it will be hard to breathe through. So when we are trying to catch air, you have to drag it down or take it off and breathe and put it on back.
How that make you feel?
Sad.
What makes them happy though is online playtime.
Sometimes we text on WhatsApp and stuff, and sometimes we play games together like Roblox and Minecraft.
What's that like?
It's fun because we get to like build a house and we get to FaceTime ourselves and we just play games. And sometimes we read books together.
You find that you spend a lot of time playing Roblox?
Yes.
And that means hours of screen time. We'll examine drawbacks of this later. But options are limited for this generation growing up in a world that has paused. In fact, UNICEF reports that the effects of living in lockdown has scarred children.
Sometimes I just feel like I have it. Sometimes I stay away from my brothers and my grandmother because I don't want them to catch it and stuff.
The pandemic is very sad because there's a lot of people dying, and it's like when people get COVID and they rush to the hospital, and some other day they just die.
A September 2020 UNICEF study shows emotions like frustration, anxiety, and fear have heightened among children in Jamaica.
Sometimes they tell how many people have died and ill, and some of them in the hospital and stuff, hospitalized and ill, and they show the numbers on the TV. So I write down them in a book and look at how many people have died, and if they put a new one on it, I write it down as well.
Why you do that?
Because I don't know, I just want to write it down, and then when I look over on the news and look over it, I just look over and see how many people have died.
Data from the Education Ministry reveal 120,000 students were out of school last year. Half of them are primary students. Even those who attend online school are displeased.
Online school is very kind of boring sometimes because you just get to sit around the computer or your device and just listen on their work. It's not like you're gonna have lunch and like go outside and play. It's because sometimes the camera will lag and sometimes it will be always glitching. It's just like when you're speaking and you can't unmute your mic.
Which takes us to internet connectivity.
Sometimes when the current chip out and then it comes back, the internet takes like 15 to 20 minutes to come back. So when it connects, it says connects without internet. So once I'm trying to join the class, he's going to say, please check your internet connection and try again.
Sometimes the internet go away and come back, go away and come back. We just have to wait until it come back for us to rejoin the class and stuff.
It happens to some of my classmates.
How many of you?
15 of them, because it's 23 students and 15 sometimes they can't join the class.
And after 18 months of this, they're tired.
I just wish it to go away and never come back, because we have never had a virus like this. We never had one like this with people dying every day.
What are you looking forward to after COVID?
After COVID, play football and help mommy and daddy.
Going back to school and see my friends and teachers. I'm looking forward to just go back to school in face-to-face. I just make sure that it never ever come back and destroy my life again.
Things are gonna get easier.
Every time I see those kids, my heart hurt me, honestly. So the government's announcement that some schools will be reopened, and it's not all, it's going to be some, came in fact just after an open letter that came from UNICEF and a number of advocacy organizations and individuals calling for the safe face-to-face reopening of Jamaica's schools and to remove any barriers standing in the way, including vaccination targets for schools. Remember, initially the government had said schools had to reach 65% at the secondary level before resuming. Let me go down to our guest, and Dr. Tortella, let me start with you. Well, we heard the children there in their own words saying how badly they're being affected, but can you give us a little bit more insight into the importance for UNICEF of the resumption at this time?
Thank you, Dion. Yes, it was heartbreaking to hear the children. It brought, in many cases, members of principals on the panel are all saying that it brought tears to our eyes. I mean, we know these are unprecedented times. We've never faced anything like this. You could argue that we were in an education crisis before the pandemic, and now we're moving into an education catastrophe. So you heard the children talk about all the different ways that school benefits them. They're being able to see their friends, their teachers, they're talking about Zoom fatigue, they're talking about internet challenges, and these were children who actually are able to connect. So what about the 120,000 who have had intermittent or no connectivity? And the additional 30,000 at the early childhood level, that number has also been shared. So, it's schooling, there's no replacement for face-to-face school for the interaction with potentially at least one positive adult that can have a priceless effect on a child's life trajectory. Why now? We know a lot more about the pandemic, the virus, how we can control the transmission than we did a year ago. We have begun a vaccination effort. We are looking at other countries that are further along in the pandemic and what they're doing. And we know that the virus can be contained. We know that young children are not the ones that are considered to be, the evidence shows they're not the ones that are the main drivers of the transmission. Neither are schools, as long as the protocols are strictly adhered to, maintained, and monitored. We all know the protocols: masking, hand sanitizing, washing, social distancing, staggered starting, stopping, rotating classes if you need to, reduce class sizes, not facilitating large gatherings on the school compound, trying to facilitate as best as possible safe journeys to and from school. The truth is we don't have any more time you know, we can't wait any longer. Other places are opening up, bars are open, gyms are open, hotels are open, people are going to work every day. They're not mandated to be vaccinated in many cases, and they're traveling all over the island, going to work. Nobody is necessarily monitoring how well they're adhering to their mask wearing and their social distancing. We hope that every well-thinking Jamaican is doing their part. And if they're able to be vaccinated, that they are doing that and seeking that out. But why is it that our children who are at greatest risk, you know, before the pandemic, Dion, there was a study that the World Bank and UNICEF did that analyzed learning. So if a child enters a Jamaican school at 4 and goes through 11.4 years of schooling until they graduate through the system, they basically take in about 7 years of learning. So there was already a deficit of about 4 years. So what is happening now to our children? And it's not just a loss of academic learning, it's a loss of socialization, it's a loss of one main meal a day for many children, it's a loss of access to therapeutic services that cannot be accessed outside of school for many families of children with disabilities. It's a loss of psychosocial support, time spent with their friends to grow critical and creative thinking skills. Just look at the CSEC passes, the CAPE passes, the number of children that sat these exams, the stress the children talked about, the anxiety that they shared in that video of noting all the deaths and so on. You know, their routines, their lives have been totally upended. And, you know, nobody was prepared for this. We've learned more. We need to use what we have learned. We need to find ways to bring our children safely back to face-to-face school where they can maximize, where we can identify them. We can help them to recover on an individualized basis as best as possible using the tools at our disposal.
Right.
And scaffolding their learning.
Hold that thought for me, Dr. Tortella. Let me go to the break, and then when we come back, in fact, we pick up on those points that you've been making and ask our educators that we have with us on the program as well, how they see this working and how they feel that some schools, in fact, are not going to be going back to face right now. Let's take the break. We'll soon come. Remember, our hashtag is TVJ All Angles, and our WhatsApp number is 3810072. Stay tuned. Soon come.